Hey, 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 what's up, everybody? So, this topic is one that's been on my mind for quite some time. I've been kind of mentioning it here and there. And so, we're just going to go ahead and get into it. And that's Jezebel. The reason it's been on my mind is because that word, I really hadn't heard it in 15,000 years, and all of a sudden in this past year I have heard it at least, I don't know, more times than I can count on two hands. So I'm like, okay, since this is something that's back in culture, or in our language, or in the way that we speak about someone, let's at least go ahead and clarify that. You know what I mean? So, I know for me, when I think of Jezebel, I don't limit my thoughts to the traditional depiction of a seductive woman, or even generalize it to just a woman, or even in humans, because my perspective of it is the concept really expands far beyond that. So, um, for those of you who are familiar with the Bible, who are Christians, not Christians, you may recognize the term from the Bible. So, um, whether you are a believer or not, and this is not to get into religion, but this is to talk about uh, the characteristics. So, like, even if you view it as folklore, let's just say that the essence of what Jezebel represents is significant, and I think it's significant beyond this woman, this story of a woman that was, you know, lived way back and was seductive and a liar, and it I just think it's more than that. Um, when you apply them to today's world, and people don't really know me, but I do say that I love history, and so I just find it fascinating how stories from the past can resonate so powerfully in today's society. It's some really good stuff, and then I just always say in general that you got to look at history to understand the present. And I probably read or heard that somewhere, but like it's really ingrained in my head. So, like, when I first was hearing this word tossed around, some phrases that came to mind when I thought of um, Jezebel, like I think of it in terms of a spirit, so that's just me. Uh, and what I thought about is, if you tolerate, they'll dominate. If you don't speak, they will speak for you. If you don't lead, they will take the lead. And if you don't activate your voice, they will take over, really, overpower your life. So, I just think in general, the Jezebel spirit, for they present themselves as prophets or prophetess, claiming like some kind of deep connection with spirituality, but in a sense, a, the Jezebel spirit is both seductive and manipulative. So, like, while they can be, drawn to the church, and when I think of like the Jezebel spirit in the church, or even people that don't necessarily attend church but identify with the Bible, They weaponize the Bible. They misquote scriptures to control others. And another thing that I've noticed about this spirit of Jezebel is, like they aim to block the truth, and they do it while just loudly proclaiming their own truth, even if their truth is a lie. So I don't know if I'm making sense yet, but I just, again, it's not random because it's been on my mind, but I'm kind of burnt out and talking about politics. So, fun. Switch over to spirituality. But okay, anyway, so the reason that, I think of, or one of the reasons, 'cause this is like, there's a lot, but I'm going to try to keep it brief. But the reason that I think that like Jezebel is it's more of a spirit. It's more of a force. However you define that, but these are the things that I noticed about that spirit of Jezebel. It's not just a woman. Again, to me, it could be a woman or a man. So I don't limit that. But if you know things that I notice about that spirit that people call Jezebel, or we'll just keep it to that. People call it Jezebel. But this is what I've noticed. They always seek proximity to leadership, even if that's like encouraging you to compromise your own integrity so that they can dominate something. And this is coming directly from, my understanding of the story of Jezebel, and that, like with Elijah, because let's just go into it. The story of Elijah and Ahab. Now, Ahab may have been in control, but Jezebel didn't like him. And so that's one of the things I notice about this spirit, and why I do say it's not only a woman. Like the Jezebels, and we're just going to call it Jezebels, not meaning any disrespect, but we're just going to call it what we call it. So, Jezebels tend to have a deep seated hatred for authority. So like I was saying, Ahab was in control, but she didn't like him. And not only did what told me, and again, this is my perspective, what told me that she didn't like him was, the way that she manipulated him and exerted her dominance over him. She ran over so many people and actually unalived people, and, just everything for her own thirst for power and her own gain. So, how this kind of factors into today, when I say like Jezebels, they tend to go towards leadership. And, like anybody can attest to this, a normal person. If you have a position of authority, beware. Because I'm sure that you ran into some people that just resent you, because, and you don't even know why. And it could just be because you have some type of authority. And I know that we also associated with women because the name Jezebel, ironically, means without a husband. So, even married people that we're going to say behave like this Jezebel thing that we're throwing around, they could be married, but you'll even notice in today's society, like, they have this fierce independence, and it often suggests that they may not be married unless it's needed, unless it's that time to say my husband or my wife, and that's about the only time that you'll hear it. And even with that, it's in a way to exert some type of dominance over somebody. Well, I am married. You know what I mean? So I just those are kind of the first things that I noticed. Now, the next thing that I noticed about, and we're gonna call them Jezebels because it makes my flow of conversation easier. And forgive me because I do have MS. So, like I said, I gotta call it what it is just to make the conversation flow easier for me. Oh my gosh. Let me get back on topic. So I think I was saying, besides all that, that basically that is a form of spiritual warfare. Even in that story that I told, that could be an absolutely made up story. I really like to look at the moral of the story, the meaning, what I can gain from the story. And so, um, just with that, it was like, wow, that's deep. And then just knowing how I used to be, when I'm angry, I'm angry. I don't want to hear anything. And then, I see people now, and it's like you're just angry, and it affects your health. But anyway, okay. Um, that being said, they try to control their relationships, and no, I'm not talking about romantic relationships, so please understand that I'm talking any relationship, family relationship, business relationship. It does not matter. But if you choose to be in relation to them, it's going to be on their terms. In friend groups, it could be that they're the ones that are demanding the allegiance. They're always insisting that you side with them against the other people. It's just no in between. It's this side or that side. You rebuke them, or it's over with. And I think that there was some mention of that in the actual story in the Bible of Jezebel. But it's always like, are you on our side or are you on their side? Are you the enemy? Or are you our friend? But it's based on them wanting to control it. Now, it's always, not always, but it's a norm that, especially in family matters, they're the ones that are always complicating the family gatherings, or they're always the people in the community or at the meeting at work that are disrupting or complicating things. It's like what should be, if it's a family event, let's say, what should be a joyful occasion, now it's a battleground in the family. Or if it's a business meeting, something was supposed to have been done, and now all of a sudden everybody's up in arms because one person, just had to, do something. And not saying that that person actually said anything, but it's because that one person is the one manipulating the dynamics. And it's like, when it's in the workplace, that Jezebel, they might not hold a title of authority, but you'll always notice they will position themselves as a leader. They, often try to gain control through finances. And if we're going to talk about the Bible, another example is Judas. He stole from Jesus's ministry. You know what I'm saying? And he was overseeing the finances, and who would have thought? But anyway, another thing, Jezebels, they seek to control governments. So, like in the Old Testament, she was the queen of Israel, and in the New Testament, often presents herself as a prophetess. She craves titles and authority. And that's what she used to assert her dominance. Like, the goal, again, is to be as close to the leader as possible so that you can act like the leader, or possibly even take over to be the leader. But it's like, how do they do it? It's, sometimes through offering unsolicited opinions on different things. But while they're offering unsolicited opinions, guess what? They don't like being preached at, talked to, feeling like they're placed under authority, and they don't like learning, and they don't repent. So it's just this person wrong, 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 wrong. Even when you can say, well, you're wrong some of the time. Okay, that means I was wrong some of the time. So instead of me continuing talking about what you're doing wrong, let me stop and say, okay, yeah, you're wrong some of the time. And let me apologize because that makes me wrong at least some of the time as well. Now let's move forward and talk about it. But see, if you're dealing with Jezebel, they ain't that. It's no repenting. It's no I'm sorry. It's none of that at any point. Period. Now, another thing that Jezebels like to control: information. Yep, information. So back to the Jezebel story. There was a man named Naboth and Ahab, Jezebel's husband. She wanted his land, but the negotiations didn't go right, and he went home and he was acting like a little kid. And so, Jezebel, she just, forged some signatures and just accused him of, like, I believe it was, she accused him of I was blasted, brain fart, and sugar going slow. Um, Doggy. Okay. Oh no, she accused him of like cursing God or something like that. So don't get me, don't quote me on that. But because I'm kind of nervous and I'm talking and all that stuff. But I remember like she forged his signature. She falsely accused him of like cursing God or something like that, and single handedly orchestrated his unalivement just to get his property. So she used deceit to manipulate information all the while she was hiding in the shadows, but she had orchestrated that whole thing. And, sometimes, people can be overt, like, she was at times, and then covert, like she was at times. So, you might think you know them, but then they're like monitoring your, well, if it's a family member, like your messages or in business, monitoring your social media, hacking emails, just anything, holding personal information against you. You never want to share information with a Jezebel because if you share information with a Jezebel, they definitely will at some point weaponize that information against you. So it's another thing that I think about Jezebel. Oh. They love gossip. They love gossip. Love to talk about the details of other people's lives. Always asking probing questions and trying to make it seem like it's casual. You and like these people are good. Like the Jezebels, they good because you might not realize that they plotting against you until it's too late. Now, hopefully, you'll catch it because you know they real nosy, and you think it's just it's maybe an inappropriate question, but they just being. Mm-mm. If you got a feeling, don't talk about it. But in addition to that, this is what I noticed. They always want to be senior leadership. they always just want to be the head honcho, period. And if you're a business owner, if you're a community leader, if you're a head of your family, this is a spirit that aims to be close to you as possible because they're always strategizing to get nearest to power. And that's why I said this is in friend groups, this is in families, this is in business, this is with strangers that you meet that you think may become your friends. Another thing you'll notice about them, Jezebels love to dominate the conversation. They just talk, 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 to talk, talk, talk. And you know that, they thriving because they trying to set that agenda and steer the conversation. And then if you attempt to like disagree, they gonna run over you, try to maintain control, ensure that they are the ones that have the last word. And if you are a Bible based believer or not, if you want to double check me on Jezebel's love to dominate the conversation, I think if you look, what is it, First Kings? It's like First Kings, like chapter 17, all the way into Second Kings. She controlling the whole dialogue. It's all her. So that's definitely one of the big things that they do. They just talk, 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 talk. To half the time you like what, or you like, oh yeah, But yeah, check if you're a Bible based believer. Sorry, if you're a Bible based believer, check that out because literally, she whole conversation that was her. Now they also like to control platforms, positions of authority from which they can exercise their influence. What is that today? Social media, you know, cancel culture, Jezebel of the olden days, she canceled ministries, she closed down schools, stuff like that. Today, we seek to deplatform people, who poses a threat to control. Same, different time, same spirit. And it's like, here's the other thing about it. It's like, if they don't get their way, then it's like, it can all go to heck. Then try to share this with anybody. That's the thing. It's like, they always got to control the narrative as well. Create negative narratives, spin stories to manipulate the public perception. That's what she did in the old days. That's what she did with Naboth. And that's what people do now. It's like they're the first ones and they're quick with it to get, loud and make sure that they on top of them negative stories and just, got them going one after another, after another, after another. So you can't keep up with what's really going on. And that's really, in this day and age, that's like running rampant. People are, they quick to get loud and emotional, always want to show their side first, always, and then if there anybody that don't agree, that's who you're trying to drown out. That's it. That's classic Jezebel behavior, creating a false narrative that is really trying to lead to somebody's demise, or just doing it all for your personal gain, regardless of what happens to them. And then that's another thing. They love to get mobs together. They love to get people together around for their causes. Some conflict happens in the family. They about to call other relatives and the friends. If it's, something political or community, they about to stage a public outcry, and which is not a bad thing in itself, but where it gets bad is if it's before the issues are even addressed privately, and it's just this whole public outcry. That's suspect. That's real suspect. That's Jezebel in action, building an army to combat whoever the modern day Elijah is. I'm trying to tell you. And definitely, if you're trying to have a serious discussion with him, they're going to change the subject. They're going to change the subject. They're going to set their agenda. If it, again, family. They the ones that's gonna dictate what everybody does, how we gonna celebrate. This is what we're doing. This is what it is, and then it's the same thing in other settings. But they like to control your time. That's another thing. You know, they might, and this is two-way. They might arrive late to everything or show up early just to set the scene. You know how they want it to be, cancel at the last moment, just creating disruption that that further really is trying to control others. That's what it's meant to do. And the last thing is, I think it's the last thing. I might think of something else, but I know they'll like to make decisions for you. Now, the moment you ask for their opinion, and this, if y'all know if y'all got family like this, the moment you ask for their opinion, you done just gave them the whole map and title to your life. It's like they just now they think they just about to take over, you know. So that's crazy. But it's like even with some people, you know, that don't know you, they tend to exert, their influence simply because they want to be the leader. Let me think. Another one. Yeah, see, I knew that wasn't the last one because I don't think I said controlling environment. They like to control environments, people. So if you're in a meeting or personal gathering, they're the ones that are going to insist on the location. They're going to insist on the setup. And this is just really to exert control. I would say spiritual and emotional control, but if you want to just keep it down without the spiritual, it's to exert emotional control over people. Another thing, oh goodness, now it's coming. Gifts. They Jezebels, they give gifts, but it's always a string attached. Something that creates some kind of sense of obligation. You know what I mean? If it's a family member, I'll pay for this. I'll pay for college if you do this, or I'll pay for this if you do that. And I think it's just what is supposed to be like this general gift. It can turn into a bribe because they're always gonna remind you what they did because they, number one, probably said it out loud in the first place. And if they didn't, they're going to remind you and everybody else of what they did for you. So, that's because control and their image. Their image is paramount. They are obsessed with appearances. And I don't mean physical appearances, but how things look. The information that they're presenting, if they're like this credible person, even if, like I said, again, whether it's in your family or not, they're this credible person, they're the most credible, and they don't have to explain why. They just are, and it is what it is, and they do what they do. And I think that is like now when it's social media, they always have like this persona. It's some kind of persona. You're godly, or you're so beautiful, or you're so successful, but all the while you're just being dangerous and manipulative. Um, I really do think the last thing is Jezebel's drain your energy, man. Oh my goodness. Like you could have one person that will exhaust an entire family. And not only family, an entire church, organization, a community, a meeting, whatever it is. It's their relentless pursuit for control. It's like, oh my gosh. At some point, it's like everybody's asking, like, are you kidding me? Like, do you ever stop talking about this? But that's what they do. And, I think that we all start out kind of, well, I'm not going to say all because I don't like that word. A lot of us start out in life with, some of these traits, and it doesn't mean that it's a Jezebel spirit or characteristics, but it most definitely gets concerning when it is detrimental to people or when it even affects the lives of others that in a negative way. So, I just want to make sure that, as we throw this word Jezebel around, we understand what it really means, what it's really about, because it's not about just some woman that's some seductress and, oh, she's just a liar. That can be anybody. So, I really wanted to reflect on that biblical narrative because, it we see it today in threads of our relationships, our families, could be ourselves, our friends, people that we know. But I think that what's important in life, besides recognizing that, these type of characteristics exist in people, because I always want to end on a positive note. I think there were three people in this Jezebel story, and please, if you are a Bible believing person, check it out. If you're not, check it out. It's a good story. Um, but three people: Ahab, Jezebel, and Elijah. Ahab, he was her husband. He was the rich one. He had the money, but he was passive. And Elijah, I don't even think I talked about him, but Elijah, he stood up. He was like, whatever. He did all this stuff. And I guess let me just go into Elijah real quick because I didn't even talk about him, but Elijah was one that was like really, she hated him. She wanted him gone. So he did a lot of stuff. It was like in the story, she sent like 850 men after him, and fire came down and wiped out all those men. Um, defeated her prophets. But, then she like put a curse on him and then she vowed to unalive him in like 24 hours. Yeah, it was like 24-hour notice. I don't know how he did that because it wasn't even like social media back then, but he had got a 24-hour notice, honey. And at that time, if I remember the story correctly, he was like just tired. He's overwhelmed at this point. He exhausted. And he ran. He ran for his life. But he had not but I'm sorry, but and I just said but I'm sorry, but anyway, he ran. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm telling this story correctly because I'm it's really coming to me right now. But I think that he was like, look, I'm just let me go bye bye to the other side than for me to have to continue battling with this lady, which is a spirit. But, you know, he ended up taking rest and, he took like, I think it was like 40 days and just rested. And, as the Bible story goes, it's like God provided comfort and sustenance to him. So that recovery, it kind of speaks volumes because he came back and he was like, all right, we can do this. But I wanted to, just because I had mentioned Elijah for the first time, I wanted to give a little background. So back to what I was trying to end on. I'm sorry, guys. But back to what I was trying to end on, which was, Ahab, Jezebel, of course, and Elijah. And we all get tired. We all get tired at some point. But I think we know that passive individuals like Ahab, who was her husband, who she ran all over, passive individuals can inadvertently allow harm. And then you have the controlling personalities like Jezebel that actively cause harm. And then, you know, you have Elijah, where, we don't want to stand by and watch the harm take place, and we don't want to be the cause of it. But our goal should be to build up and bless and help keep each other, whether that's family or friends or community, safe. So, again, I just wanted to, examine this Jezebel thing through the lens of our culture right now and our world right now. And it's really evident to me that like some of those same dynamics at play in biblical times, whether you believe in it or not, are relevant today. So it is my hope and wish that people will find the courage, like Elijah, to be strong and be steadfast and be willing to just stand up against wrongdoing. I know it's not easy, but silence is violence. And, you know, for those of us who already gained insight into these issues or are in the midst of gaining insight, let's reach out and help others who may be struggling. And if you're a person that finds yourself, struggling with what I've been talking about because I'm talking about a figure in the Bible, or if, you heard this message and you're thinking about that other person that has these characteristics, that's all perfectly okay. You know what I'm saying? It it all starts with having an honest conversation with yourself first. And I truly hope that in my butcher little conversation here that I really shared something that resonated with you today. So if you found any value in this discussion, please give me a like, give me a little subscribe, and as always, send me any topics that you want to hear about in the future or you want to talk about in the future, because I'm just getting started, and again, I'm trying to pivot away from kind of what I kind of got sucked into purposefully. I don't say like, oh, somebody drugged me into it, but I'm trying to, and when I say steer away, I don't mean like not talk about it, but it can't be my only topic because it's really depressing. So, so again, if there's anything you want to talk about, feel free to email me, comment below. Um, but when you're commenting below on this page, now remember, number one, adhere to the community rules of Facebook and of Facebook. God dang it, of YouTube and the guidelines, and also my housekeeping on my page. And I'm very tired, and so I'm going to end there. Until next time, of course, I am sending everybody love and light. Thanks so much.